Howdy, this is Lemmy with Dorman Products, here to talk to you today about our upgraded OE FIX shift tower for Jeep Wranglers. The Wrangler is one of the last holdouts for manual transmissions. Grabbing gears is the fun part of having a Wrangler for a lot of folks. However, that fun can be dulled a little for those rocking an NSG 370 transmission. This trans first showed up at the tail end of the TJ era when the Wrangler was first fit with a 6-speed transmission. Shift feel on these can be very numb due to a variety of factors. The shift lever itself is rubber isolated. That lever is not short either, so shifting one of these always reminds me of driving a bread truck. But the worst part of gear selection is probably the 6-speed's unbelievably soft engagement and the related propensity to pop out of gear. Making matters worse, consider the Wrangler's mission involving off-road capability. The shaking caused by body movement and flexing of the drivetrain when you're navigating undulating terrain increases the possibility of the shifter just popping right out of gear. That's not exactly a confidence-inspiring proposition if you're in the midst of an off-road climb, especially if you're spinning the tires a little bit and traction isn't exactly at its best. Now, to dig into the meat of the problem inherent to the NSG 370, you gotta understand the function of the shift turret. That's the device responsible for actuating the shift rails. The tower here is responsible for a great deal of the feel of shifting. You know when you get in your truck and you wiggle the stick around? Well, various internal pieces are responsible for that feeling, whether it's tight and positive or loose and sloppy. And loose and sloppy shift are exactly what a factory Jeep shifter offers. That's because the shift select detents fore and aft are of the cam and roller type with notches that naturally wear as they're used. Given the length of this big old stick poking out of that thing, it's really not surprising that the notches wear prematurely. Now, we get a lot of folks here at Dorman who have Jeeps and like to grip them and rip them, so we built a better shifter. We built test jigs, you can see here, to simulate the shift rails and see exactly what was going on inside of that transmission, and then we can see some of the weak spots. Our engineers spec heavier springs for more positive feel when you're moving the stick for either the 1.3, the 5.6, or reverse shifting. The lead engineer on this project also reworked the gear shift selector detents as well. Gone are those cam and rollers, instead we replaced them with a rock solid ball type. This design allowed the use of heavier detent springs as well, and also allowed us to change up the shift geometry a hair too. The result? More robust shift action. Greater effort is required to move the shifter, but you get this locked in feeling once you're in there. And that worry of popping out of gear when you're taking your Wrangler off the pavement. That geometry change, well, that allowed us to reduce the shift throw by about 10%. It's not too bad. This is an upgrade I think we'll sell plenty of. My personal TJ and JK both had this awful shift issue, and I'm a little bummed out that those were gone from my garage before we had this shift tower for sale. Now let's talk install for a little bit here. It's pretty straightforward, but there's a lot to do because of this little guy, the cabin gasket. Getting the fresh cabin gasket in there requires the trans being dropped just a little bit, and you can't skip this step or you're gonna have noise and debris making its way into the cab. Now you're gonna pull the T-case and the shifter knobs and then the interior trim and remove the shift lever. Next, you need to go underneath the vehicle, pull the T-case skid plate, and after that you gotta drop the fuel tank just a smidgen. That will allow you to drop the trans crossmember and the trans just a couple of inches, enough to sneak the old gasket out. The new one comes in from the top. After that, you kind of just bolt everything back together in the reverse of the install. Sounds worse than it is. It's basic wrench turning, and you're gonna be bouncing from the cabin to underneath the truck a few times, but if you have a couple jack stands and a couple blocks of wood, it's a pretty simple job to get done. It pays off in shift feel improvement. Incidentally, if you wanna remove this silly rubber isolated stick and install a solid mount, this would be a good time to do it. We hope you like this new solution. Remember, if you need anything at all, the Dorman technical support team is always handy to help. Thanks for checking out our video on this manual trans shift tower improvement kit. I'm Lem, I'm out of here.